Yes, no, exciting one to start the day with as well, because you know how this one works, Dab. This is either the most epic matchup ever, or it's the thing you never want to hear. That was quick, right? Like, these guys, I think on average, last time I cast these two, the game length, I think, was 9 minutes.
They're just so methodical. A lot of them, they have a lot of the same openings, a lot of the same build orders, and you're exactly right. They have kind of one of those couple things go wrong or couple things go right, and it's like, all right, I know the game's over. Let's just move on to the next. You know, not necessarily short-sighted, but having that goldfish memory moving on to the next game.
Yeah, you know, we got a stack there ahead of us, right? Because after this, what we got coming up next? We've got 2 on the upper. In terms of win rate, by the way, like, it's deceptive if you just looked at series by default. The interesting part is LucifroN favors historically. I don't know if most people would have pegged it there. You may notice a certain KPMM showing you the kind of results you get out of VortiX, because the Spaniard has been looking fierce, and there has also been that debate about LucifroN's return to AoE4 and how, you know, on form, is he going to reach peak? How long is it going to take? All these questions in people's minds.
Yeah, exactly that, and we'll get to see the brothers match up today. And you know, we could potentially down the line see a different brother matchup depending on how some of the other outcomes go as well.
We could. A little bit of NA pride in there. You guys, as often you do, have to adopt the Canadians, but Wham will be facing off against Marine Lord. That's going to be happening today. And then on top of that, we have got the lower bracket, right? We've got Puppy Paw waiting for an opponent, as is Anatand. Anatand, who had one of the closest series of this playoff so far, is 3-2 up against B. But
yeah, that was the exact series I was talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
It definitely lived up to the test, 3-2, and it was definitely a close one to say the least there.
I think Puppy Paw versus Louis, I think this has been the big shock for people, is Louis MT's all from grace. You know, like, this is a guy who was on podium just 2 or 3 events ago, and now we're seeing him 0-3, 0-3. You know, I don't know how you feel about it. I don't think it's necessarily he's just, like, fallen off entirely. I think the Canadians have stepped it up. Like, the start of this year, if we're being entirely real, was pretty rough for them, but it almost seemed to shock them back into action.
Yeah, I definitely felt like the Canadians, even a lot of times, you know, they get close to the end there, they get close to the finals, to the semis, and then it felt like they couldn't quite bridge the gap, and maybe this is their time. They've definitely been putting in the work, putting in the practice, albeit sometimes behind the scenes, you know, not necessarily streaming all their games and whatnot. So, you know, we get to be surprised by their performance at times.
It's a weird twist, a weird combo. Like, Wham stopped playing the KPMMs for a week or 2, but like Puppy Paw hasn't for a long time, because for him, he had to go get a job, right? Like, you know, he can just sit at home playing video games all the time anymore. So Wham has still had a bit more time to commit, and I think it's really paid off for him. Like, honestly, I think Wham is at the point, and you see it by the brackets, like, where he's actually surpassing his bro. Whereas historically, I feel like we always talked about Puppy Paw as the better of the 2.
Yeah, it definitely, playing against each other's wasn't always, maybe I'd be surprised, just like the LucifroN VortiX matchup is, but I felt like when they played against each other, it was a lot more even. But when you saw the results of overall tournaments, I feel like Puppy Paw always was making it maybe 1-2 more rounds ahead of Wham. But enough of that, we can see the matchup at hand. Our first map being Gorge, and a classic matchup of Byzantines versus French.
This is a fun one as well. You know, it's scaling eco on both sides. There's clear spike times as well, where like French have that inherent advantage, just having a few more villages. Byzantines percentile scaling, so it's really on the French player to chip away at them to build a real lead in this one. But I think we are ready to get into game, in fact, for game number 1, a series that usually is capable of delivering a full distance run. And I'm noticing things in there that are going to be crazy, Dabston, like excavation, front range. There's a lot of excitement here. Holy Island, man. Like, if you had to choose 2 players to watch go at it on that map, are these not the 2?
Yeah, I feel like the Spanish bros have always been the water aficionados. They came out with all these different strategies. I remember when all of a sudden, you know, they'd make 15 demo ships, and that was at a time when it felt like demo ships weren't that great, and they used it to perfection, and a lot of other players started to adapt. So excited to see that one. But starting game number 1, VortiX as the Byzantines, LucifroN as the French on Gorge.
Oh, yes, here we go. A fun one to kick off. Gorge, a fairly tempered map, I want to say. Nothing too crazy, nothing too funky, but I am curious to see how this is going to play out, because, like, while French has historically been LucifroN's signature civ, I think VortiX has been coming forward in oodles and boodles with Byzantines. He was straight away, when they did the system change, he was straight away a big believer in these kind of, like, you know, 2 villages straight to stone, scale up to 5, get it online, get it in control. But as we know on a map like Gorge, you do have to earn those third, fourth, and even fifth system placements because the map tends to stretch you wide. You're going to be up against a raiding Civ.
And looking over at LucifroN's side, dropped the mill right there next to his TC. I was expecting an early wheelbarrow play, but didn't see it queued up on yet. So just might end up being the typical Pro Scouts variety that we have seen in so many strategies here in the recent months, almost year. Not really sure exactly how long I feel like it's been going on.
It is most definitely curious, actually, because normally we will see wheelbarrow into Pro Scouts anyway. So we'll probably see it as he ages up. But it's easily feasible for French because the extra villages they get to thread that needle. The sacrifice is the initial night timing, of course. So it might be that LucifroN, there we go. I was about to say, it might be that he inherently values something about like the 1-2 night timing quicker. But for most players at the highest level, 1 night early is enough to do some damage. 2 feels greedy. You want to be on that Pro Scouts quickly.
Yeah, and it's weird because you'd think that, you know, a knight would easily be able to counteract the Pro Scouts just like, oh, I'll make a few horsemen. But the way that these players micro, the way that these players are able to move, split scouts, everything, it really makes it to where you have to put a big investment into stopping Pro Scouts. And at that point, if they've gathered up enough gear, they're just going to be Castle Age.
Yeah, and, you know, VortiX almost got the perfect kind of spawn to just play Griefer. His berries lean a little bit left. And you want to be leaning left because the deer locations. Because then if you spam out a few Limitane, you can block Pro Scouts and guard your economy. In some ways, having the stone back there instead is even better, though. So it's definitely probably the type of spawn where you might consider building an outpost on the 4 berries. But outside that, like I could see a world in which LucifroN struggles to get more than 60% of the deer on the map.
Yep. School of Cavalry already being built. You can see VortiX just a step behind because he is investing more into his economy. Triple Cistern looks like is going to be the opening so far.
And the sheep count, I mean, VortiX is a really good position to be in, considering, like, yes, your opponent does have more workers, but you're already gathering quicker from this. It just gives you a little bit more lifeline if the pressure on the berries early on is a little bit too much. I imagine we're probably looking at, I want to say longbow. Like, javelins does historically make sense against French, but I've noticed a lot of players just starting to favor longbows across the board in almost every matchup at the moment.
Yeah, just being able to utilize that range, being able to just do that stutter step mechanic and just keep it distance while still getting damage off adds up over time. No surprise here, Grand Winery going down on that front berries, and hopefully should be able to gather from it for a good little bit before that first night does show up.
Yeah, and sometimes we see 2 on stone, but like this is an adaptation because of French. He knows he can't stay out there too long. Early on, you don't have any spearmen. You don't want to be playing the game of Benny Hills with 2 knights on each side of your base, right? So you just want to kind of optimize around that. One thing that's going to be a little bit annoying here for VortiX is the berry secondary spawn. I said this is an interesting area with the deer, but if you look at that secondary, it's slap bang ahead. So quite the tricky decision. Like, do you try to block Pro Scouts or do you just hunker down here and secure the double berries?
Yeah. As we see the massive amount of sheep coming in for VortiX, it does make it to where LucifroN will have to rely on that Pro Scouts a little bit more, but both deer camps are kind of back behind his base almost, so shouldn't be the most difficult for him to be able to grab that up with no problem, and you can already see research is being started.
And even his boar for later on, like look at that boar in the northern corner. It's just so easily wallable. Just jammed right in there. Meanwhile, VortiX is out in the middle of the opening, really. Like, yeah, you can kind of wall around it, but it's a lot more effort to keep safe.
And in reality, he could just pull the boar right up next to the corner of the map and make it an even shorter wall. Very, very minimal investment for a lot of protection.
Yeah, it's... I don't know if we're going to get any, like, wall plays. The other day, Anatan in the KPMM, he attempted a full boar send around, where you remember you used to wall it off and you'd send it aggroing around on Carmel. I mean, there's some worlds in which you could do that kind of stuff. I wish we saw more of it. It looks so clowny. It's so phenomenal. Unfortunately, he didn't grab it in time, so it ran all the way back.
And LucifroN already doubling down into the typical play here, which is that archer play to follow. No knight so far, but I'm sure he will end up investing into them in a bit once that food income starts coming in from Pro Scouts.
Yeah, it's a very greedy approach by LucifroN. Most of the time, French players go 3 to 4 scouts and stop, and then they start prioritizing knights. The reason is that you just want to basically keep pressure up on your opponent and gradually get the deer home. So the fact that LucifroN's going heavier on the scouts suggests either A, I don't think I can actually raid into him, or B, I'm worried he's going to take map control away from me in a few minutes somehow, right? So those are the two things to keep an eye out for, because otherwise you're just like, if you think you're going to bully the map, Dustin, you don't need more than 3 or 4 scouts to get the back consistently.
Right. And VortiX's lovely scout positioning himself was able to see both of the obviously the School of Cavalry, but immediately when the archery range finishes, how many archers are being produced as well, and going ahead and able to adapt that front berries. He's going to be able to fully gather from. There was no Royal Knight out right off the bat. It was all into the scout play, and so the deer are going to be rolling home soon. I'm sure LucifroN might try to steal a few from the other side, but I always find it better when they make sure to secure their food for the foreseeable future before trying to, deny from the other.
Yeah, I mean, when you got 5, though, you don't have to take all yours, right? You could take, like, send 2 to your safe and then send 3 to your enemy, and you have a nice balance there. It's very interesting that he didn't prioritize that knight. I think what's happened here, like we talked about the 3 villages on stone for VortiX, I think they practiced this, and LucifroN understood that because of that timing, you can't do any damage, so it's better to just get more read and then go for a more aggressive timing on a delay.
So it is not going to be the ranged longbow play. We see the first set of javelins already out. We're able to get a few throws onto one of the archers, and the big kind of thing here for VortiX that he has to worry about is just the lack of range that those javelins have. A lot of times when they are having to move up front and forward to get into the range and start sniping the archers, that's where the knights are close enough to close the distance. However, big investments into militaries for both of these sides here, so looks like we'll be seeing feudal age play for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, makes sense. There's a lot of spears coming up from VortiX already. Should give him a little bit more breadth to feel safe. I mean, he's already set up to start moving, just berry patch to berry patch. I'm curious to see if he just prioritizes that fully, or if we see that sneak into Olive Grove. Sometimes players feel comfortable adding 2-3 near the Grand Winery. But obviously that would mean you're spreading yourself a bit wider on what you have to guard.
You can see he is definitely planning on trying to defend that location, sending his whole army, rallying the troops that way. But next set of javelins comes out at the perfect time as well. VortiX should feel very comfortable about being able to defend this position.
I think you're pretty Kushki here. And his goal, his number 1 prerogative is stop attacking me so I can get castle. It's always the way of Byzantines. Javelins gives you a bit more tempo and feudal though. Like I'd say if you go longbows, you're just saying I need castle, right? But when you go javelins, there is an opening to be exploited here. That's what he's trying to do right now. Actually sends half the army up, keeps half at home. Can get a bit dicey with this type of positioning, though, if LucifroN now just rallies everyone back towards his base.
Yeah, especially with the more mobile units. He can, still we can still see the knights moving forward, but they're so easy to kind of close the gap, have both of his armies combine into one, and could pick off that small battalion that moved forward for VortiX to try to do a little bit of denial. Instead, still trying to find damage in eco. Looks like he's about to try to dive the wood line, but quick reactions from VortiX. He was already ahead of schedule. He's been tracking those knights the whole time.
A lot of respect being shown as well by LucifroN. He set up an outpost on his gold. You wouldn't think you'd have to do this when you're French, but like part of it is A, he knows how aggressive his brother can be, but B, if you don't have these type of defenses, your knights aren't going to be raiding. They're going to be defending at home. It defeats the point entirely. So good read there. But harassment's come in. That's going to idle out the ability to produce knights. So he's only got a handful to work with on the backside of the base. And VortiX, he's a little bit too late to the party to stop the deer play. So LucifroN's still got some breathing room here, but this should eventually draw the entire Spanish army, well, French-Spanish army back home.
Yeah, and I mean, outpost that was invested into just fully denied, and if LucifroN was planning on abandoning that location, which he has, he's already moved all the way to the eastern side gold, and feel like that was a little bit of wasted resources. Knights, though, circling back from the far side. VortiX also going to probably chase those down, make sure his armies stay together and none get picked off here.
Oh.
But speaking of getting picked off, not quite the first villager kill of the game there.
Yeah, it's almost like VortiX is leaving these slight openings to invite you in, but it's bait, and LucifroN understands that. Like, if you go in there, it's like Alexander, with his first big win against the Persians, where, he just set up those formations, square formations for chariots to run into. It's just a trap waiting to be sprung. So good read there, but this is scary. He's moving in a retreat pattern towards his gold. Whether intentional or not, this is likely to reveal the gold in the corner.
He knows what he needs to protect, but this is definitely a very, very dicey fight. This might be just the typical Spanish Bros type of game where the winner of this fight just wins the game, and all of those archers are getting shredded on LucifroN's side. VortiX able to continue to snipe. A great brace there from the Limitanai, and how many archers?
That is the Spanish special. GG from one fight. It says everything. But, like, you know, I don't know if you had it as well, Dabston. I was watching the beginning of that fight, and my brain was like, how does LucifroN ever win this?
Yeah, I completely agree. If you look at the pure numbers, VortiX was just about doubling the numbers of the French. Obviously, that is one where resource-wise, the knights do cost a little bit more, but you can still see the military value lead as well. It's just kind of completely different there. I believe that the olive oil units still don't count into that graph, so it is very deceiving as well. But the archers just slowly got picked off, and that's where there was really no answer for the Limitanai.
Yeah, and you know, the thing he's kind of looking for, I think he's trying to fish for an error with the an overextension. I think what he wanted his brother to do, he wanted VortiX to bring the whole army up earlier, and the knights would have went in, chipped away. Because we mentioned this right at the start, is like the dynamics of this matchup is, if you don't know Byzantines very well, you're going to say French is favored because they get more villages. Yeah, but percentage scaling, right? So Byzantines, as long as they don't lose workers, they remain ahead percentile-wise. And that's where it puts the pressure on. And LucifroN, you know, he couldn't find those first 2 or 3 critical dents to take the worker count down. And from there, it just kind of felt like Ryan was on the wall. The other thing we always remember Byzantines, when they rush the level 5 cistern, not just the eco buff, it's the ramp up on production. Like, he got so many spearmen out so quickly that it felt like, compared to a different civ, almost any civ you can think of, there wasn't enough time to get knights in. There was already too many spears.
Yeah, and to compound onto the 5 cisterns, they also have that nice and free extra resource that they're getting in. Yep. There was absolutely zero denial of the olive oil. We thought, you know, maybe if that first knight came out of the School of Cav, there might have had to be a little bit of reaction from VortiX, but LucifroN went all into the scouts, and it definitely did not pay off for him there. Very, very quick first game, but again, like we said, not too surprised seeing that from these bros. Front range with a UBIDS versus Japan might be a little bit longer, to say the least.
Well, I mean, you say it might be longer, but we have to remember this is a map that is defined by aggression, right? You have to attack. It's very hard to be turtle, very hard to be defensive, but I wouldn't expect that from either. UBIDS is a little bit different. It's not your atypical Japanese Ottomans, those come to mind, but let's see what it's going to be cooking with. We head into front range for game number 2. VortiX already in the lead in this upper bracket best of 5. Can he extend it? Or is a more known approach of Japan on this map going to be able to even up the series?
Yeah, always. I love some of the new maps that have come into play in the, you know, in the past couple updates. They've added a lot more variety rather than just, okay, this one has water, this one has mountains, this is closed and open. They've added all these little point of interest and other ways that you kind of have to focus on playing the game.
Definitely. And, well, I do wonder what kind of choice we're going to see out of UBIDS. Like, we've seen a bit more diversification in terms of the landmark choices these days, but it has anchored still back towards growth a lot of the time. I think the logistics wing and feudal lost actually a lot of its pump ever since the deer shoving got nerfed.
Yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you're looking at the deer shoving goes, I feel like that sort of gameplay for a while, everyone knows to value the deer very, very highly, and a lot of people would even use Dark Age spears to continue to push deer in from the very early stages of the game instead of putting pressure with Dark Age spears, but that's been behind us for a bit. I am interested to see what wing we have going on, as well as we can see the House of Wisdom, I think, starting to get built there with the UI.
Yes, it's coming through now. It was infinite once upon a time, but finally someone wants to work on it. But in terms of like what else you could do, like the Recon, for example, has been a big fan of Mastersmiths. I don't know if we're really going to see that come in, but like the theory is pretty cool actually. Like you get over 1,000 resources in tech if you go for Mastersmiths in H2. But there you go. Look at I try to be different, but here we are, Growth Wing.
Growth Wing. And VortiX just trying to put a little bit of burn damage on the house. It's right on next to that boar that LucifroN started with. One of the villagers is half, but these scouts, they are not the scouts of the old days. It would take about 25 hits or so to end up taking down that villager, so not even bothering trying to attack that, finding more value on just the slow burn damage, letting LucifroN know he's there, knows he sees what's going on too.
Yeah, and you know, this is the reason the IB pick feels weird, by the way. Like, this map has been dominated by boar civs, right? I think Marlians might be one exception. But it just makes a lot of sense. It's such an advantageous play on a map where you have to play aggressively anyway, right? Because remember, you only get 9 sheep per player spawn on this map. So it dries up fast, at which point, if you're going to have to play onto things like deer, you might as well go for the better food in boar anyway. Yeah,
definitely valuing that early food, allowing yourself to avoid running out near at home, the safe food economy and whatnot. We can see VortiX hasn't split up the villagers on the berry bush, but won't be too surprised to see him move off with there's just, you know, a little bit left over with the growth wing.
Yeah, I don't think he expects too much immediate aggression. So, you know, sometimes you'll send the villagers further out, get the risky resource first. But like here with Japan, they have some openings they can like lean to. But I'd say most of the good ones kind of lean around Yuumi, right? And I think Iabids are big fans of just stable dropping on the opening. Because even if you don't want to build Desert Raiders, it's always worth having 1 or 2 horsemen to poke, whether you're investing in the Ages, Iabids, or going for Castle.
Yeah, and I mean, with the micro of these players, they're able to move those horsemen around. It also, you know, they aren't quite scouts, but provide some valuable information when you have some more units out on the map splitting off, and especially on a map like this. So we've been talking about aggression really does pay off with the minimal amount of food that's out and about.
Most definitely. And yeah, I just love the design of this map overall. Like, Avali was cooking with this one, right? Like, you know, you got the deer pulled, in general, the food pulled to the east, and then to the west is the gold, right? So you have to choose. I think I compared this to a map from AoE 2. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I always forget its name. But you kind of start in the middle of a no man's land, and then to the south you have all this fish, and then the north you have, I think it's coast to mountain, right? It kind of starts you off in a desolate area. It's like, well, you got one type of resource here, and then one type on the opposite side. It's very hard to get both, so you've got to really strategically think about what you need and when you can get it.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that's kind of the name of the game. There's always these opportunity costs, and I love LucifroN. He's not even worrying about hiding his stables. He just wants it up front, further forward to be able to rally even faster. VortiX sees exactly what is coming as well, and as we did mention, VortiX did move off that berry bush before they ran out to just get that little bit of extra food from the growth wing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked he built that far forward, because, like, down the line, if this is the Yorishiro drop, you're going to be probably pretty out of position to drop that. And the problem is with Horseman already come, you can't really lean Yuumi. It would have been a pretty cool bait to like, hey, I'm doing Horseman, force the spears, go Yuumi. But VortiX already has a healthy comp for that. And this is where Ibids get a cool little bit of flex as well when you think about it. You know, even if he didn't have the spears, he does have a soft countered Horseman with the Desert Raiders. And that's a level of flexibility they get with their production buildings that not many civs can brag.
That scout is forcing a little bit of repair on the house in the middle. Outpost being built as well. VortiX spots it out, decides not to trade the health, wants his reinforcement since he has more units. And not only more units, he has the spears as well, so has definitely invested a bit more into his military so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good place to invest in as well, right? You start with the boar, sure, but the reality is with level 2 wheelbarrow, the berries gathering rate is almost as good as the boar. Right, we always have to remember that with Japan. Like, they are, when capped out, I think the second best gathering rate on berries in the game. Right? Like, do you know who's first?
What is first?
If I remember correct, and someone's going to butcher me and say it's actually that they're second. I think it was Ottomans with Madrissa, which is very interesting.
I was just thinking immediately. Shoreline fish was my first thought because I know shoreline fish is quite up
I'm talking berry gatherers, like just berry gatherers. Yeah, shoreline is like by default best, and then boar just behind it. But like you have these weird interactions. Like my brain wouldn't even think Ottomans there because the Madrissa.
No. Yeah, it doesn't really come into play, but that Madrissa, it can't. Oh, we actually see the first raid from LucifroN. Just moves past all of the information that VortiX was gathering and still is able to get some damage, and the damage at a key time. Look at the resources in the bank for VortiX. He clearly is trying to make a Castle Age play, being denied, delayed on that gold. Every second really counts when you're making these fast castles, and it's not just a little bit of denial. This has been a solid time that these villagers have not been able to gather, and there's what, 7-8 villagers out there and one that was lost.
I'm good thing he's got willpower. That's all I'm gonna say. This is painful. And you know, the beautiful thing is, like, if this just turns into horseman, Japan wins that, right? You have to start adding in your desert raiders at some point, and LucifroN's already prepped for that. You already gave him a way of, like, this is the weird part about the opening, is like, by going spearman horseman, you can't really go desert raiders. You've already encouraged your opponent to build Yumi. Oh, this is rough.
Yeah, and no kill here from the horseman raid, but still a lot more annoyance of another outpost forced. VortiX trying to secure up this next berry patch. Does have 3 spears there, and the other 3 running that way. But if I know LucifroN, he's just going to run around, try to poke, prod, continue to cause delay. The logistics wing is on the way. A brace come in from the horseman mass, but look at what is here to follow.
Hey. Of a counter unit. Now he just ignores them. He's like, okay, just go for the kills before the tower goes up. Construct is going to complete, though. No additional worker kills here. But he's forcing a lot more defensive investment. VortiX, in kind of a weird place where he needs to add in more of these emplacements to defend himself while teching. You want to be prepping that wave of resources to get the good units out.
Yeah. Feel like this is one where, yeah, LucifroN, he got not necessarily taken advantage of, but Byzantines overran him a bit that first game. In this game, he's trying to do the same over to VortiX. A little bit more of the investment into the military, a little bit more aggression throughout the map, and we'll see if he's going to have this timing to be able to punish the logistics. Another villager. Oh, what the... Whoa,
nice blocks.
What a body block by VortiX there from the other villager mass.
Great micro, and you know, any damage done is going to be offset in a minute, courtesy of the logistics coming. But it's going to be a bit tricky to get some of these relics, right? Like, LucifroN's doing a good job of guarding upfield. He's also one-handed the cookie jar himself, right? Like, he's half resources for going castle himself. Probably, like, I mean, you could mount Samurai. It's weird. You can kind of mount Samurai to counter lancers because of your Uma Bannerman offsetting the debuff, and then you having more health by default on top of the deflective, right? So, like, going Cav into Iber Camels, as crazy as it sounds, is not the weirdest thing to do here for Japan. It usually is the most preferable.
Able to pick off another villager, but more importantly, it's just the massive amount of idle time that LucifroN's just been causing all over the place. He's even poking, prodding. We see him pick up a horseman. We see him pick up a spear here and there. And these kills really start adding up. Just you can see the destroyed value already, the army value difference. And LucifroN, yeah, he may just be dropping the floating gate now, but it's still not that far delayed.
Yeah, I mean, you completely killed your opponent's wing from Age 2 if you think about it that way, right? 3 worker kills, checks the box. And Camel Lancers, their production is slow, man. So, like, you know, LucifroN, I don't think he's in a damning position at all, right? Being delayed like this. Does end up losing a lot of horsemen there, but he's still looking to make him punished
right
elsewhere.
As the outpost is trying to be finished. Outpost goes up. And another villager falls.
I wouldn't try to kill this guy. This is bait. This guy will never die. You know, Dabston, he debuffs you while healing himself and moving at the speed of a Bugatti Veyron. Unless you stop moving.
If he gets circled, he will end up. That is the caster curse if I have ever heard one.
All right, so that's gonna be 10% of LucifroN's earnings owed to me. I think that's how that works.
And you can see this right off the bat. VortiX hits castle. Hasn't been able to really do much for it other than 2 relics. Really would have liked to have that third if he had been able to move out and around. And the first couple units immediately go to try to defend his berries. Another camel rider ends up getting circled for a bit. But LucifroN knows what's going on. He is castle age as well, with a lot more military from feudal still out and about, you know, circling the map.
I think what happened with that dervish is it was probably one of those early generation satnavs. You know, the ones that would, like, say there's a road ahead, you drive into a river. They just didn't know where it's going, and that is quite the place to go. Yumi get caught. However, they are very fast to retreat. This is always the awkward thing, just trying to clear them. If the spears are taken out, like I think LucifroN's happy with this trade because the Mounted Samurai can now come in to take over.
Yeah, only 1 to 2 spears left by the time the Mounted Samurai get here. Also, reinforcement from the outpost.
He's raiding.
He's in again. Much, and another raid, but Wololo coming down. There's a fight on the other side, trying to body block with the villagers as well. I just love these small little micro plays from these brothers.
Yeah, but it just feels like a smaller way of dying, right? Like, look at the villager count now. It's a 5-worker lead for LucifroN. Like, this is scaling and not scaling favorably for VortiX. Sure, he's got 2 relics, 2 more on the way home. But, like, the damage being done, because the next step for LucifroN could easily be a Yorishiro dropping his TC. That'll begin to scale a lead that'll put you in control in. That greedy camel will be sent straight to the butchers.
Yeah, you said 2 more on the way home. Unfortunately for VortiX, only 1 able to be secured. And LucifroN, look at the military difference. We do have 7 Camel Lancers for VortiX, a great, strong unit. But LucifroN has the spears, and there's really not an answer for spears on VortiX's side.
He's still getting kills. Another one. He's finding them elsewhere. Like, it's multifaceted raids now. We're up to 12 worker kills. LucifroN may not have been able to find his raiding groove in Game 1. But Game 2 has truly made up for it.
Yeah, it really feels like he is making VortiX fight on 2, 3, 4 different fronts. Just can't balance out, can't secure enough locations to actually feel comfortable gathering that food. And first relic being secured for LucifroN now.
This is hard, though. You know, the advantage of cavalry is still there on this map, but because the map's more linear, you can't use the full breadth like you normally would. It's kind of more predictable, right? It's like infantry can at least keep pace is the point. You know, you're seeing VortiX going to archers now. Your opponent already has 12 spearmen and enough cav to mirror you.
Yeah, the archers are just now coming out for VortiX, like you said, and it's 9 archers to one-shot one of those spears, and VortiX is going to be quite a bit away from that. LucifroN picking off another few camel riders, and this just feels like at this point, this is LucifroN's game to lose. He has been playing to perfection after getting stomped on that first one.
Mm-hmm. And like to make matters worse, and it's this type of position, right? Like Mounted Samurai, like, they're fine because they know the camels are on the clock. Right, you see, they're actually just beating them right now, but here's a thought for you. Look at the Stone of LucifroN. We're almost at Daimyo level 2, at which point Uma Bannerman comes in alongside Yumi Bannerman, and you have no answer. So, like, VortiX is kind of scrambling, looking for a way to raid in, but LucifroN is just not giving him any opening.
LucifroN hasn't lost one of those... did not lose one of those Mounted Samurais chasing down those Camel Lancers, and just another quick one, but... it was a little bit longer, a little bit more extended than the first game, but still kind of proved to be another quick one, another exceptional micro game from these players, though.
Yeah, and like this is the thing with Camel Lancers, a little bit weird, is that Camel Lancers, you know, we talked about the intricacies, like 20% debuff, so you can kind of compete with Cav, but they have 20 less health. And the other thing to think about is like lower base damage and the charge, right? The charge is weak unless you charge. So what that means is camels can never really be outnumbered. If you're outnumbered, you get chased. And if you get chased, you're always going to exchange poorly. So like those detailed together with the deflective armor on the Mounted Samurai, it just shows you why he didn't lose a single one. Like great micro combined with a great unit leads to a continuance of a great series. And, you know, like you said, it's a positive flow, right? We've gone up on the average game length. So now we need to reach 18 minutes, then like 22 minutes. Go from there. Maybe we finish with an hour-long game somehow. I don't know.
You know, from these brothers, I would be surprised to see an hour-long game or anything longer than even 25 to 30 minutes. But now we're seeing some of these first fights, and when you look at this at a glance, you're like, oh wow, LucifroN's about to lose all these archers, Yumi archers, but you can see he kind of just baited him in to take the fight, clears out the rest of the spears right as the Mounted Samurai arrive, and just again after again, LucifroN just slowly kind of poked and prodded while this is going on, gets another villager kill. It felt like, you know, that game of French where you nickel and dime your opponent, but all of a sudden those nickel and dimes add up and you're light years ahead. Yeah,
I mean, the thing with Yumi as well, they're always deceptive. The speed on them just means it's actually very hard to kill them off with heavy cav, weirdly enough. I've seen it in plenty of games in the last few weeks. Like, players have gotten so good at explaining that fact of, like, you think about archers in a traditional sense. You get up map and your opponent brings out heavy cav. You're like, well, I'm out of position. I'm going to die. Yuumi aren't like that. Yuumi are like, oh no. Anyway, same with HRE archers. They just tend to have a get out of jail free card by putting their Nikes on. And it's a good thing we talk about HRE, because it's going to be an intriguing pick going into our next map. I imagine VortiX is cooking something special, but also maybe doesn't want to try to contest this in the most obvious way with Chinese, considering LucifroN had the Sushi pick.
Right. And I mean, this is one where we were talking about it before the series started here. These brothers, they are known to be the water players. They're known to be exceptional at fighting on two different fronts, water and land. We just saw LucifroN and VortiX trying to fight on about 4 different fronts with the micro going last game. But Holy Island is always an exciting one. It feels like it's one of those water maps that's not a true water map, because there's usually a little bit more action, a little bit more of this kind of balance you have to have, where we have seen plenty of times where someone does win water and actually just gets overrun on land with a timing attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one, because on one side, we have, I don't want to say the strongest pick for Holy Island, right? Knights Templar exists, but it was always going to be banned. But one of the traditional strongest picks, right? If you remember, for the expansion, it was always Japan and Sushi. Those were the ones that came out as kings. The leverage of Stone early on, the Arislets plays, gave them a lot of reset power, a lot of push. But back in the heydays, when VortiX and LucifroN were both like podium level finishers, Holy Island first came out, the early day adaptation was happening, they were the ones that discovered some sick timings of HRE. In particular, you build like 3 or 4 men at arms in the feudal age, and then just wait for that perfect moment when there's a water fight to send those chunky boys in the tree line, and disaster would strike for their opponents time and time again. So maybe we'll get treated to a classic like that in this one.
Yeah, only time will end up telling. I remember the meditation garden spots on this map.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely wild as well. Not the old meditation gardens, but still quite strong. But we will see the openings now. VortiX is the HRE with LucifroN as Zhu Ji.
There we go, and I'm already looking for that Medigarden location. There is actually one near the central tree line that doesn't look too bad. Probably can wedge it between the gold, the stone, wood, and berries. Like, this map, Holy Island's an interesting one. If you don't get at least 100 resources in a Meditation Garden, you feel bad. And it's a big part of why Sushi just became such a dominant factor on this map, HRE, though, they're definitely not without their spikes. The early gathering rate is pretty insane on land with the Prelate. So it does give them a bit of contest, even against the Meditation.
And one of the things people a lot of times will forget about with Zhu Ji is just their cheaper age-up timing, too, for Castle, that they can get a lot. And that's really what can surprise some people with these water fights. All of a sudden, food income is through the roof because of how many fishing boats they invested into, and it's a real quick, easy age-up. I do love seeing stone able to be gathered from the meditation gardens as well. Just means those little things like, one of your docks might have arrow slits and just kind of force your opponent away from that full-on water denial.
Yeah, it's a very popular play because just over time you crawl along the shoreline. More and more of these emplacements until it becomes just overwhelmingly oppressive. Obviously, HRE doesn't really have that same leverage, right? Like the other civ that was really good for it was Japan because they gather a lot of gold. The gold would give them stone, and then they were off to the races. But yeah, I'm curious to see what VortiX's strategy is going to be here. Like, will he just try and use his better early economy to burst the first few ships? Will we then see the switch over to land? Because in theory, it's like a decent matchup for that switch. Like, what is Sushi going to do? They don't really want to build House Guard against Men-at-Arms. You definitely don't want to be building repeated crossbows against Men-at-Arms. So you're stuck with, like, what, maybe Horsemen? Or just, if you get that stone emplacement, some hand cannon slits could be your best friend.
Yeah, and this is one of the games, though, that I feel like the longer it goes, the more it favors LucifroN. You talked about the chapel. Well, the chapel's very strong early on, but it gets to a point where they got 20-30 villagers on the wood line, and all of a sudden they've chopped through far enough to where there is no more inspired economy. You're trying to like keep a lumber camp inside the chapel range to have them dropped off and have villagers inspired, and then not only that, it's just one where, as it continues to expand, you have IOs coming out for Zhu Ji, and that is where that kind of matches the Prelate economy as well.
Yeah, and the way I always describe this is that, and I love when we get this matchup, because it really melts your brain and makes you think differently about how economies work and how they scale in a game of Age of Empires, is that HRE gathers quicker, And your instinctive thought when I say that, Dab's going to say that, well, that's good. That's great. But then I say, Shushi gather more. And you go, huh? They get 20% more. They just make it up, right? So that's already a big difference, this polarizing. But the other thought here is like HRE, what that means is you're working on burst timings. Because you're going to run out of your buffed resources quicker, right? And then you're going to have to move out into more dangerous places quicker. So like, this has been ingrained in the HRE identity since its release. If you think about it, we used to see the fast castle, fast imp builds. If you measure up HRE in the same age as their opponent, they're not that impressive if we're being totally real about it, right? They don't have this unique unit. They're not like French Knights, for example. But their advantage has always been in being ahead on economy, right? And that drives the advantage into military. So what I'd love to see from VortiX is either burst the initial boats and take control of water fast, or use that extra early economy to try and catch LucifroN before he has the defenses online.
Yeah. And I feel like that is one of those that if he doesn't do exactly that, then that's where LucifroN will have that little bit of a leg up. There's always the micro wars on water. There's always the gameplay where it matters more. You can see the chapel tucked up as close to that wood line as possible to try to continue that inspiration for as long as we can hope for over here. Both players doing the similar thing, though, just being annoying to that one villager that moves out and builds that first dock, forces him home, forces another one on out. Might not seem like much, but we talked about it last game. That shoreline fish is the fastest food gathering in the game, yeah. So if you can force the villager off that, that's great, and also delays that second dock timing as well at times.
Yeah, because they have to start circulating villages, right? Like, if you can get away with it, you just keep doing it. And he did go for that tree line. Just look how good it is, right? He's got 48 food, 25 gold, 25 stone, probably about 21 wood, maybe a little bit less. But it's over 100 resources. That's the point. And, it feels like either A, you have to be really unlucky on this map, or B, you're not looking if you can't at least get triple-digit Medi-Gardens.
Yeah, and well, there are some times too where sometimes the resources are parked where you couldn't get the meditation gardens in between those, and you kind of have to awkwardly put it on the outside. But that's where we saw LucifroN's able to perfectly fit it in between the gold, in between that stone, tucked up next to the berries. It was kind of just pixel perfect over there. He just wishes the wood line maybe could have gone out a little further as well.
Yeah. You're happy with this. Like, the only other thing that might have been nice is like a double stone outcropping, which we saw elsewhere on the map. It's just, this is workable. Like, it might not be that you need that many stone outcroppings anyway. Like, it's just a gradual advantage. You don't really tend to rush it. Archer ship already on the way from LucifroN. VortiX, he's going a bit heavier on the lumber, so he's focusing on getting his economy even stronger. Probably going to see a delayed timing into, like, double Springald here would make a lot of sense.
I haven't quite seen what they have planned yet, but LucifroN is going to be the first one with the military ship out. He is not moving across the water with it, just kind of more of a defensive nature here first. I think he might start to...
I mean, this early, both is... Like, I was expecting a little bit of, like, I'll lean one. I think he's maybe worried that VortiX is going to try to attack him on land. So Archer ship from VortiX. He must be building land.
Definitely run yourself thin over here, but...
Right?
That is one where you saw a second ago he was a little bit ahead on the economy, so less fishing boats out, more military now, and first little bit of denial, but right as that happens, VortiX able to match with his own galley.
Yeah, so interesting. VortiX, like he's taken a much more tech-leaned approach here, right? Like he got the lumberjack upgrade a little bit quicker than LucifroN, I believe. Now we're seeing the fishing nets coming out really early, right? Instead of him just like maybe just inflating more boats and getting his boats out. And then also, he's primed himself for a timing here, right? Because he's got triple dock, I believe. And I think LucifroN's still only on 2 because, of course, he chose the archery range instead.
Yeah, the question is how much damage can he do with those chooks that came out? We're seeing him attack on land, but at the same time, I believe he is about to try to hit that forward gold as well.
Yeah, I don't think VortiX has a tower up. Does he? Okay, good lad. Yeah, there you go.
He does
nice.
have the tower up.
I mean, you have to. With that type of placement, you'd be crazy to not set up an outpost on it, right? So good lad. And, I mean, what do you do now with the Chug? You can rotate them towards the tree line, but we know what the solution to that is. You can just palisade wall both sides, and then they don't get in.
Yeah, forces them to try to run through the TC, and we definitely know how that goes with the lightly armored, or not armored units, I guess I should say. Instead, he might just kind of try to do the in and out, continually try to idle that gold, continually try to annoy. Yep, and that's exactly it for now. VortiX does jump in the outpost, a Chute goes down to half health, and the low health villager gets swapped out for another, and can eventually get healed up if VortiX ever decides to make another prelate.
I love that. Go check the meditation gun on range. I believe VortiX has just like left his scout on the very... Is he not? Ah, wait. So what's he doing there then? No, he is. Yeah, he's disturbing the piece. I was about to say he must be. Like it's just dangling there subtly to just take a little bit of resource away from his brother.
Just yet again, another just annoyance here. Jumps in, half health Chuk, but the timing that he does is exactly when he is trying to push on the water as well. And we can see the difference in ships here. That's not only more sprinkled ships for LucifroN, there's some demos up there as well, idling out the full fishing economy. Demo ship does get destroyed early, but galley goes down and there is still a demo alive.
Yeah, new galleys need to be coming out soon to protect him. Instead, VortiX is leaning into horsemen now. He's trying to flood land. It's tricky, though. This type of position he's in. Like, the production will protect him, right? LucifroN doesn't want to dive in just in case a demo ship comes out, but he's getting ready for this full-up timing. Oh, no. Look at the demo count. 2 come in. He splits, right? But there's so much more where this came from.
And actually splits the demos where... Okay, he does at
least end up taking down one. But these two
are super low. VortiX, he just throws another sprinkled ship or 2 away. There is no galley out on his side, and he's leading him right to the fishing. This is going to be a huge demo.
Wallop in there. He gets both of the hulks as well. And now it's a full cleanup on water and an immediate GG.
We thought that it was going to be a longer game. We hoped it was going to be a longer game, but instead, 10 minutes, 24-second Holy Island, LucifroN. The Chooks, they didn't seem to do much, but what mattered was the military lead on the water. He absolutely took advantage of the timing, and those demo ship closing the gaps, able to take down the galleys, they just did whatever they wanted.
I mean, he got caught at the worst possible time because, like, his idea is right of what he was thinking, right? It's like, I need horsemen. These Chuk are a problem. They need to go. Problem is, he's now investing in horsemen when he's getting harassed on his fishing. Like, it's impossible. Like, he ends up over spamming. I think he queued up 4 horsemen with no food income, so he couldn't afford more boats, right? Just rock and a hard place at that point. And, you know, it's the nature of Holy Island and the caliber at which these two play it. Like, you know, they can trip each other up every day of the week, even when they know what's coming. So... Not really surprised that one was 10 minutes. My hopes is like 20 minutes plus on a map that wasn't Holy Island. Because with these two, you kind of expect someone to just take the overwhelming edge. And with how these boys like to GG when they think it's an apparent lead, I guess it's not too surprising. That this
it's actually crazy to see how many more resources LucifroN was able to gather over that 10-minute span. He was up, I think it was 1,800 extra resources. And yeah, there was a little bit of idle time, I guess, in the last minute or so, if that, but that was, I mean, that is a ton more resources when we're talking about a 10-minute game here.
Yeah, it was because so we're talking about this percentile advantage for HRE, right? And it's like both of them get impacted negatively by shifting to water, but like I think HRE suffers more because their 35% buff is kind of redundant when now you've got fishing boats. Those don't get buffed at all, right? Until you get like ecotechs. Whereas like for Sushi, sure, you can say they're losing out as well, but the loss is less, if that makes sense, right? Like, you know, you talk about HRE's 35%, like it makes the world go round. Whereas Sushi, they've got so many different complementary things in the taxman alone that it's not the end of the world that you've got to set up fishing, right? Like, I think it's just astounding just how much you can get out of this Civ early on. The tempo, and also on top of that, production rates is another thing always. Like, the timing attacks are just so much better than most Civs because they can ramp up the speed much better.
I mean, that one demo we just saw at the end took out, what, 7 fishing boats, 3 sprinkled ships? I would immediately surrender there. Even if it weren't VortiX versus LucifroN, I think we would have saw 90% of the players surrender after that one, maybe even 95.
Yeah, like, you could see the writing on the wall. Like, I think he could as well. Like, he was a rock hard place. It's that demo timing. Like, Sushi and Chinese are the best Civs in the game at doing that exact demo timing. You know, we saw the first hit, like, well, it's decent. And you just look at the queue, and it's like, there is 5 more demos on the way? Nani? Like, I mean, it makes you wish you had Japan for that one. But next up, we've got Excavation. This is interesting because, you know, no Mongol pit coming out. Mongol was kind of like this cute idea, but I agree with the thoughts of like Ottomans and Lancaster. I think they are a lot more solid in what they do. Lancaster probably the best one for this map because of how they use that stone from all the stone sites. But Ottomans don't do too bad either, courtesy of the military schools, at least early on. I do think it's harder to chill as Ottomans on this map, though, because of the fact that, if you calculate the amount of stone you need for military schools versus manners, a longer play around the stone is more advantageous for Lancaster.
Yeah, and I love you mentioning the Mongols because it's everyone's first thought when it comes to excavation. It's always like, oh, Mongols, why didn't they pick Mongols? And it's one that's thought of great, but as it came into, actually playing it out and as these pros continue to practice, continue to figure things out, they just realize other civs have better timings, better economy, better uses for the stone, like you were mentioning.
Definitely. And, maybe down the line, as Ottomans, you could go for like a 2TC build, right? They have some cute plays around that. And the idea, for example, getting the cheaper TCs and get the crossbow emplacements might be cool against like a fast castle Earlsguard build if you're going that cheesy direction. But it might just be overwhelming pressure. And like both these civs are bullies in Feudal Age, right? They're two of the best at it right now. You've got the Abbey of Kings Lords build, which is ridiculously dominant due to the 20% increase in health. Reminder, folks, that's the same percentage increase you get from Elite Army Tactics and Age 4 Tech. But then on the other side, Ottomans, they've got the auras from the meta. They've got the AoE healing. Another thing that's nice about AoE healing is a lot of Lancastrian players are usually thinking Spear Hobbler first, so you don't get countered as quickly from range units. So don't be surprised if there's like maximum 3 manas and a bloodbath in this one, especially with these two.
And I love their game plan with the draft as well. You can see kind of how they've played everything out. We have Coastal Cliffs as the last map, and both players have civs that are highly played on Coastal Cliffs. Mali, I feel like, is one of the go-tos over there, and as well as, Delhi and Chinese both are very, known for that as well. So not spreading themselves thin, not feeling like they're forced to make a pick here. VortiX, sometimes when you're down 1-2, you really feel like you have to pick your best civ, the best map, and sometimes that leaves a big hole for game number 5. But I'm not seeing that hole in game number 5 here. If VortiX does end up equalizing it, he will be at a fine level, has some fine choices going into the last match.
Yeah, I don't think there's another picker that makes sense, right? Like Delhi and Excavation, the 2 sacred sides and like the nature of it, 3 isn't it, right? But like the wide nature. Chinese, a passive stone, it doesn't really make sense. But Chinese is an interesting thought. Like China is the broken pick, right? They're the best civ in the game right now. They get banned more than any other civ in every other tournament. But on a map like Coastal, I think Malians, I don't want to say they're better, but they can contest reasonably well. Like Mali is historically pretty good on Coastal. The big challenge is if we get to that map and there's like one of those boar spawns where they're both close together, because then you just barbican the center on delay, and you've got so much food that you don't care about what the cows are up to,
Yeah, and one of the best things about China is just how quickly they can adapt to anything and everything. Swap the IO over to the military building, swap the IO over to whatever resource you need the most of, and at some point you're going to have 4 of them just bouncing around wherever you really need. And I always find it crazy when there's these like early attempted rushes on China, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they quickly built a barracks, they have an IO on it, and then now they have more military than me, and I haven't even stopped queuing at all.
Same reason why Byzantines are so dominant at the moment, those production rates. But you know what? We'll see who's going to be the productive force and who's going to be the chiller here. We head into a map that dictates you should be active in Dark Age. The reason is usually a greedy one. It's excavation time between the Spaniards. All those stone emplacements are a delectable treat for an Ottoman and Lancaster pick.
Yep. And no one's surprised here with the barracks drops, the early military, obviously taking up those sites, getting that stone like we were talking about early on is so key for this map.
Yeah, and this is something that was discovered very early on with points of interest, mainly because of the meta we had around Enlightened Horizon, is the optimal route: go out, build a racks while standing in range of the POI, then build a house. By the time you complete a house, you can then walk back because a spearman only takes 15 seconds to produce. There's a nice organic feel to it. It means you don't have additional idle time, because in the early days, you remember on Enlightened Horizon, people would walk a villager out and he'd just stand there. It's like, that's resources, man. That's my money. So we just reached that point where It's very organic, it's very repetitive. I do love point of interests. I think one of my big feedback points with them is I wish there was more styles, and some of them had things like they only activated after a certain time interval, or you had to be age 2 or age 3 or stuff like that, right? I would love to see them add that in the coming year, because I think that would just give so much more breadth and depth to map design.
I mean, obviously a great idea. I would love to continue to see more kind of just little tweaks you can do to these map designs, because anytime there's more variability, anytime there's kind of more differences, it just increases the strategy. You just talked about one of the ways that like players learned how to kind of min-max that first excavation site so well, and it just seeing that all of these little micro decisions in RTS games matters so much in the long terms of the game. It's like rolling that snowball. Might start small, but by the time it's at the end of that hill, it just turns into an avalanche.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's been some fair criticisms of certain maps and their designs because it becomes just a Dark Age extravaganza, and I agree with that. Because sometimes it's too good to resist. Like, Enlightened Horizon had that problem, the Wolf Dens. So, like, you know, if we see them iterate, I hope they don't just drop it, because I think it's a good addition to the game. I think, actually, like, it's a refreshing thing to have in an Age of Empires RTS again. So I hope they just take it and evolve it more so that you don't feel like every single game you have to be Dark Age present like this.
And I love this choice by LucifroN. Doesn't try to go for sights himself. He instead just goes for the full denial. We saw VortiX have a few spears going out towards that southern side. Immediately was forced back. Has dropped the military school, but that takes so much time for that next spear to come out. So he is currently down a spear here at home, and LucifroN has more on the way, or at least one more on the way.
Yeah, but LucifroN doesn't want to commit more. Think about what happens if you keep building spears here, right? It's going to be that inbound point, and then you're like, I lose the fight every day of the week. So he has the right idea. Just be a little bit annoying. What's a bit of a reinvestment from your bro? But target on the next age where you can also get healing.
Yeah, and I mean, you can just see, look at the food difference now as well. VortiX does have 2 spears in queue. Meanwhile, LucifroN's, he's sitting at 560 food in the bank. It looks like he's maybe trying to save up for Castle, and hasn't even dropped Feudal yet.
I think he caught himself off guard. Like, this happens sometimes when you play Lancaster, especially if you think you might need more spears, because you have to remember that they actually have a better gathering rate on cheap than any Civ by default, right? Without, like, obviously not if we're talking about things like Prelate buff, but they have a pretty powerful spike at the early opening, and that's why Lancaster is probably the most typical Civ to Dark Age rush at Conk 3 out of all Civs in the game, because they can afford it so easily.
And VortiX has yet to be able to grab a second sight. He was forced home. He even has a 7th spear in queue. So while the Abbey of the Kings is already just about halfway done, Twin Minaret just now getting started.
Yeah, minimum interest, kind of just a mandatory these days. There was a while where people thought, yeah, go for the trade. But the problem is they never actively traded, so it was just not worth it. In theory, it's cool. If you know you're going to be blocked off of gold, it gets you your techs to fight back. But in actuality, whether you're fast castling or playing feudal, Madrissa just 9 times out of 10 feels much better. It gives you so much more flex, and most importantly, allows you to afford the best unit you can build, those good old Sipahi.
Yep. You can see on LucifroN's way back home, able to gather, capture each site on the way home. Abbey of the Kings finishing at a great timing here still for the Dark Age investment that he had.
Whoa, look at that. Lancaster gets that much from tech. Broken Civ. You seen that score bar?
Oh, this is why score is just so deceiving when it comes to AoE4.
Like imagine, like, they fixed walls, right? Imagine, back when, can you imagine that chart up and, like, someone just playing English and walling in? And you're like, well, English is clearly broken. Have you seen the score today?
I always remember the funniest being back when it was the 8-person free-for-all, whatever, mega randoms. You'd see, like, the score enabled, and someone's dropping, like, a bunch of outposts around, and all of a sudden they're, like, 10,000 score higher just because of outposts.
Yep. Oh, man, like, thank God it's not, like, you don't... Thank God that's not in-game, where, like, you just be like, yeah, that guy, we need to kill him, and it's just he's making a little outpost zone. He's not actually the threat at all. Oh, blimey. But... I think we should be just getting standard Lord spam here. Sometimes LucifroN likes to delay the additional Lords, but like they are insanely cost-efficient units, right? Like, very pricey at 160, but you get your bang for buck. You know, I remember I interviewed VortiX after he won the Opposed World Cup and talked to him about it. It's like they kind of just do everything too good. You know, they're very tanky. Obviously, give the aura, which is important. But the part that I think surprised a lot of people is their damage. And they hit for 16, and you think it's okay because they attack slower, but that's the deceptive thing about melee. Melee attack slower doesn't really matter that much because there's a lot of moving involved in melee. So what's more important for melee units is actually just having high base damage anyway.
Yeah, when you see a lot of these fights, it's usually get one swing off, kite back and forth, one more swing, especially in these melee back and forths. It's trying to kind of time those swing timers very, very effectively. And now we can see Ottomans doing the typical Ottoman thing. We have the double military schools on Sipahi, and actually VortiX is investing a little bit more into an actual stables fight going on. Imams are there, but LucifroN, he has those lords you were talking about, going to try to out-damage that healing.
Yeah, and notice LucifroN's response is getting into the Yeoman already. He knows Sipahi are coming, but A, you're already obligated the spears. B, it will keep the Imams away. Like, that's the key here. So you'll probably see him scale up to like 10, 12 Yeoman, but it's the type of comp that you just keep snowballing with if you can. Nice thing as well is when you look around the front of his base, he's got these beautiful choke points to fall back into that might make it very difficult for Sipahi to hunt him down. Like, look how easily you could guard that with just a few spearmen.
Yeah, easily able to kite back and forth. His gold has like a little mini wall around it. Meanwhile, VortiX, he is moving out to the deer on the center, doubling down on some outposts to protect the location, give him some extra vision, give him some extra knowledge. That first Sipahi doesn't have a scout with it, but just gets microed away in time.
Yeah, but a few yeomen here now makes you freak out a bit with those imams.
This fight, it feels like it's going to have to be taken with the villagers there building the outpost. Fight is going to be taken, but the Sipahi, they don't want to be sacrificed. There's so many spears there. Villagers starting to be focused down. One falls.
He might get Imam. The blueprint blocks him. He griefed himself.
The Imam goes down, and the key with those is it's so effective having two of them, but now the one that's solo, it's just not going to be quite as good.
Yeah, he's redundant.
Health.
It's never going up now. Like, you don't need mass yeomen to kill him anymore, right? You only need a few. He's going to keep scaling it because he's in a great place now. There's still so many spearmen to remove.
Another villager. Oh, just microed away in time with the...
Nope.
I jinxed it. Pastor Curse. There wasn't room in the outpost. Couldn't jump inside.
And then the Hobblars showing up. Like, why Hobblars here? They're actually surprisingly good raiders and incredibly tanky with the lords. This is rough, man. Is VortiX got any sheep?
Idle time.
Has he actually got any sheep at home? Can we do a sheep check right now? Because, like, this feels like desperation for this deer.
Fight yet again being taken. Imam moving on forward. That Imam, it's left behind. It might get taken out too.
He's gone.
All of a sudden, that first Vizier point absolutely worthless. Deer location fully denied. That's been, what, 10 villagers idled out for this whole entire time the fighting's been going on. Hasn't even been able to finish the mill.
Look at the Lord's health bar. It just doesn't move. Like, they're so obnoxiously tanky. It's infuriating. And even the Hobblars, right? Like, they make up the loss of health with the kings, with the Lords here, right? But it's worse than that if you're on the receiving end. Because if you're relying on ranged defenses to protect you, Hobblars have one more ranged armor anyway. So now they almost have horseman health with all the Lords. And they have more ranged armor. You're just not killing them, right? So VortiX, he knows this is a done deal in a direct fight. He's pilled the spy to go hunting. If he can't find a strike in the next 2 or 3 minutes, that's when Lancaster starts to snowball like crazy here. I mean, they already have. Look at the military.
I was about to say, the military numbers, it just absolutely looks devastatingly scary here for VortiX. Don't know how he's going to be able to stabilize. Yeah, he's got 2 military schools, but those military schools only slowly make units, and he's behind quite a bit.
Nah, it's looking grim. Like, I would not... Thanks. As if we didn't know how rough it was already. I mean, like, we put the military... We can see it on the top, but we put it in a chart. It just really feels a little bit more damning, doesn't it? Oh. And,
outpost just being burnt. LucifroN, he knows what position he's in right now. If these outposts go down, this might just be the series over here.
Yeah, like, he can bail out the 4, but the 2 are dead. And even the 4, 2 of them are going to go down. There's too many yeomen here. So they're dead. The Sipahi, they can't swarm in either. Like, his own base is a choke point, and he's going to choke him out. 3-1 victory. No doubt about it. LucifroN is back. That is now the 2nd time in big stakes tournaments he's done that to his brother in the last month and a half.
I mean, if you had watched the first game, you would have thought LucifroN might not have been fully awake yet, might have just, not been ready for this series. VortiX took game number 1 in a decisive fashion, but you just flipped the switch and LucifroN, he woke up, he got ready to play, and the next 3 games, he just looked to perfection.
Yeah, like this, so, I mean, maybe it's controversial to say, and someone's going to try and make me eat my words in this, but I'm going to say it. I think House of Lancaster, in terms of pick priority, is edging barely behind Byzantine at this stage. It's that good with this build. You get the right map, it's toxic. Like, I rate this as the #1 Civ on Cliffside, for example, because any map that enables aggression with the Lord's build, you're an uphill battle trying to beat that. And you saw it here, right? And Ottomans aren't a slouch, by the way. Like, by no means. Ottomans have been proving to be a vicious feudal Civ. Even they could not hold a candle against this.
What a wild series. A quick series, but still a fun one to watch. That's always what I love about the bros. Is, yeah, there's going to be some quick games, but you at least know there's going to be some action quick.
Yeah, it makes for crap YouTube uploads, though. Thanks, lads. But, but it is... I think the thing is, even when it's quick, from a tour organizer perspective, you hate it, because it's like, it could be a short day. But the detail in the way they fight, I think that's the appreciative thing that you always see at the end of a fight between the two. There's always a one comment like, wow, the micro, right? Like, that's the two of them, always down to the capital M. They get it so well. So that does mean that LucifroN will be proceeding through in the upper brackets. Fear not if you are a fan of bald Spanish people instead, though, as VortiX will stay alive in the lower bracket. We'll get a second attempt at this. But I believe he'll be facing off, if I'm not mistaken, up against
Puppy Paw,
right? Yeah, and Puppy Paw looking pretty vicious, man. I mean, you got Freo'd by Marine Lord, but who doesn't? But then Freo'd Louis MT in response.
Yeah, and Puppy may have gotten 3-0'd by Marine Lord, but hopefully he's cheering on his brother here first while he's still prepping against VortiX. He's maybe watched the VortiX series, can pick up some things from LucifroN to try to close out his own series over there. But Wham versus Marine Lord is going to be the next series on the docket and should be an exciting one. Obviously, both very well-known players. We just kind of talked up both of the NA bros for quite a bit of time. And so Wham has been coming along. He's been looking in really good form. So excited to get to this next series.
Yes, definitely. And Marine Lord is a guy who, he had like the smaller, like the small tournaments. So we had like a series between him and Voldemar that he almost lost, right? And you go into this one, you're like, is Marine Lord losing it? Is it finally time? Guy's been flawless his entire tournament so far. He's the classic, I only bring out the guns at the big fights type of guy. So we'll have to see if it pays off for him. I believe, are we going to hop into a short break maybe while we get them ready? So, going into interview. There we go. We have got the lads on the line. So, LucifroN on the line for an interview. Let's head across to him and get his thoughts on what just happened. Hey, Lucy. How's it going, mate? Congrats on the win. I'm doing fantastic, man. Seeing your smile makes me always much more happier. But, we got to talk about this series. It always feels like we're never going to see the late game between you two. Run me through what's been happening recently between you and your brother. Like, you scrim a lot together. Is this outcome very reflective of there? Or have you been very kind of tight-necked in terms of who wins?
Yeah, so I would say close to 90% of my practice is with VortiX, so we pretty much know everything about the other, how we play, so there's a lot of mind games ever since the draft. As for our games, they are usually a bit like this, just like they are very explosive in feudal or castle age. They rarely go the distance. So yeah, this was like we kind of expected the games to be a bit like how they went now. I feel like I got the upper hand in the draft for the most part. There was only one thing with Byzantines, like I wanted to pick it myself as second pick, but he anticipated it and banned it. But other than that, I was happy with the picks. And yeah, I don't know. It's a weird feeling, right, when you with your brother. Like, I think that your younger sibling, you never want to lose against in practice. I think everyone who has grown up with a sibling knows that, but in tournaments it's different. I don't know.
Yeah. And, you say you felt like you won the draft. I was saying it just towards the end there. I feel like Lancaster just keeps going up and up in stocks. Like, you almost rank it as highly as Byzantines now, because this Abbey of Kings Lords build, it feels like one of the most bullish builds in the game right now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I would go as far as saying it's on the same tier as China. Like, it's really strong. Like, I don't know if better than China. I think there's Like right now, pretty much every draft it's either first pick China or first pick Lancaster from what I've seen. It seems that the tendency is more towards Lancaster as the tournament progresses, but yeah, I mean, I think these two are on their own tier, right? And then you probably have Byzantines and so on, but yeah, it's really strong, very strong.
And talk to me about you getting back into the groove of things, right? Because obviously you took some time away. Your brother came back a little bit sooner. You know, how have you found it getting back into the groove of things? Because, you know, I think I was quite surprised just how quickly you just took back to the flow of things. You had like the Opposed World Cup where you 3-1 your brother there as well. You know, did it just come back to you like you never stopped playing, or was it quite the struggle to get back into the meta, back into form?
No, it's been hard because overall it was more or less like a 9-month break, roughly. I mean, I did play a 2v2 tournament in between, but for the most part it was a 9-month break. So I started playing again maybe March, April this year, and the first few months it was, I mean, tough, but at the same time expected. Like I was making like top 10s, top 8s, which isn't terrible, I guess, but maybe not what I was used to. But I was talking with my brother a few months ago, and he said, "You've been gone for 9 months. Like you cannot come back and be a top 5 player immediately, right? Like, we are not that bad." He said. So yeah, it's been hard. I still feel like this tournament. I feel like maybe I'm a bit overperforming compared to like practice with VortiX and Marine Lord. Like, but like I think now I'm guaranteed top 3, which is more than I expected. But I think, like especially in the last few days or the last week, I've improved a lot. I figured out a few things. The timing has been right because it's been just for my matchups against Anotan yesterday and VortiX today. So yeah, good timing for me.
All right, so we got an interesting one coming up next. You mentioned Marine Lord. You've been practicing a lot. You've had your eye on Wham, I'm sure, as well. I feel like he's playing some of his best Age of Empires. Do you think Wham can take down the French beast there?
I mean, he 3-0'd Louis, which was impressive. Right? Like, I think I said it in some other interview. Like, me going into this tournament, I felt like there was a clear top 3 with like VortiX, Marine Lord, Louis in terms of current shape for this tournament. So 3-0 in Louis is something, right? So
they both did,
I mean,
right? Both Canadians done it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, I mean, I would still favor Marine Lord. Like I still think he's the most likely one to win, but Wham has his chances for sure. Like again, he's been performing not only his best of 5 against Louis, but in the last couple months, the last 3 months, I think he's been doing great. Like I think he placed 3rd in the offline tournament, I believe. Yeah. Didn't he beat Louis there as well for a 3rd, 4th place? I think so, right?
I think it was, yeah. He's been looking really
I think
solid.
he has his chances for sure.
All right, well, we're going to find out in a second. Lucy, congrats on the win, mate. You go chill. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm sure we'll catch you again soon. Once again, congrats on the win.
Thank you, enjoy the show.
All right.